this episode of Waking Up with Plants. My name is Madeleen, and today a different kind of episode. I'm sitting down with Dandelion, Peppermint and Lavender, who we've walked with in the past episodes. And like with any hike, this being an inner hike, it's sometimes time to sit down and take a break. So we're having a tea break. I'm actually literally sitting down with a tea made of dandelion root, peppermint leaf and lavender flower. I actually didn't recognize yet that it was root, leaf and flower. That's interesting. Maybe we'll speak about that in a bit. And today we look back on the journey so far and anything that wants to deepen, anything that the plants want to share more about their stories. Yeah, I'm excited. It's working with these plants. It's really a co-creational space. I never know exactly what we will do, so it's improvising with them and it's really fun. And today we're really in a circle together. They're showing it to me like I'm getting this scene of the Lord of the Rings, or maybe it was the Hobbit. They're actually showing this scene in the mountains where they're walking about on a mountain ridge. Why they're showing this is because they refer to this journey we're having here as for us to get familiar with how it is, what it is like to walk life in a collective of different beings walking side by side. They're saying right now that we as humanity there's a reason why these movies are so popular, and there's more than one reason for it, but one that they're showing me now is that as humanity we hold this memory of walking together side by side with all different beings, and that's a very normal thing. And they're really excited today because this is such a place again, and they're really excited that we are here in this time now, that becomes more normal again. For some of you listening, this might be very new. So just open yourself to how this feels and what it touches in you. And to some of you, this might be already in your living reality of your days. That you can walk with the plants, the trees, the animals, all the different beings that are here, rather than this landscape being just a stage setting that humanity plays in. To me, that feels so adventurous, that feels so good. It actually really feels like like the stage setting that wasn't real is like the I don't know how you call this in English, but in old movies when they have a landscape and it's just a painted curtain. And to me it feels like this stage setting has been lifted, and now I'm actually walking in a 3D or a multiple D world, and it's actually real. Everything is alive. Yes, and they want to start today off with speaking in a bigger way about beginnings. So we're speaking about beginnings because in the northern hemisphere here, spring is dawning. But they want to speak also about why we start with this theme of beginnings is also because there's a bigger dawn happening in these times we find ourselves in now. I mean, many indigenous cultures have these prophecies about this time being a very new time. And let me see how the plants want to speak about these new beginnings. There are many teachings on this, many stories around this, but I want to see how they want to bring it today for us. Yeah, what they really want to put in the spotlight today is that they're two distinct stories. What they call the true story of life, which is the story of the web of life. Then there's this other story that they call the old story of life, that we actually all been born into. So the teachings they bring, the stories they want to bring, is to remind us about this story about the web of life, that they call the true story of life, that that life is designed to be inclusive, collaborative, thriving, and they say what we have been living in is more of a surviving, and what they're showing me is not only sustainable life but actually thriving life. So they want to bring your awareness today to this shift that is happening in the human collective. They're bringing it as this is not a small feat. This is a huge thing, because what it implies is that everything we have been born into, the stories around life, and luckily, we also hold pieces of this bigger story, but we've grew up in a reality that holds many different energies than one of thriving life. I mean, fear doesn't belong there. Power misuse doesn't belong to that story. Division doesn't. Suffering, dis-ease doesn't belong in that story. So as you listen to this, maybe you can also feel how this lives in you in this moment, how you feel in yourself thriving, life thriving, and how you feel the opposite of that happening in your emotional world, in your mental world, in your actual physical life. And they say for us to start believing that that thriving life is possible, and is actually very possible, and for us an option, a definite option to choose now. I mean, the reason why they bring this up because when we look around in our world now, it looks quite different, doesn't it? So as I think, as as Lavender shared, like this, there is this magnetic pull of fear and looking to what's not working. But they actually show this spectrum of possibilities, and that this lighter version of life is a possibility that is really here, and it's really in front of us, and it may not feel like that, but they ask us to shift our awareness, because then we might actually see all this budding of new possibilities of new life that are beneath the denser layers of what they call the old story. And together with this excitement, they also want to preface that this journey, this shift of two stories is no small thing. Because for many of us, it might feel like they're showing me now the Easter egg, and this morning I also felt the yellow of Dandelion, the green of Peppermint, and the purple of Lavender. So these colors stood out to me, and they're very much Easter or Ostara in the older traditions, colors of spring. And yes, it's really so they're showing me now an egg that cracks. So it can very much feel like we've been living in an egg reality of life that actually cracks open into a different reality, a different story. So as we start holding that there's actually this other truth of life, this other story we can hold and we can align to, we start to live with two very different realities. And I'm sure we will speak in this series more about this, but they just want to share, yeah, I think I could call it honor, or no, it's more respect for the shifting in consciousness and the process of that. I think we will approach this like a circle talk. They're showing me this conversation chaptered into the root, the leaf, and the flower. So for the root part, I will turn to Dandelion, and the root is really linked into digesting heavier stuff. I mean, physically as well, in our liver, heavy fats. So what do you want to say about that? Bring into the conversation, Dandelion. They want to speak about vulnerability. So when you step into looking inward, looking at your emotions, your thoughts, your physical constitution, and what there is thriving and what there is not thriving, that act alone has a vulnerability to it. Why are you calling it a vulnerability? Because to discern that, you have to feel, and it also takes the courage to feel where life has been hard for you, and the vulnerability to get honest with that. How are you actually doing? So where life isn't thriving, it can feel like a knot, like multiple lines are intertwined, and the life energy can't run through it. Going inward will be the only way moving forward. I mean, we always have free will, we always have choice, but they're showing me like going inwards, like accessing the highway or a freeway, accessing the river of life where life is flowing. That option is provided when you go inwards, because what will happen in these shifting times, that outside many beginnings and endings and are happening at the same time, and they're collapsing together, intertwined, being knotted. So what we see outside playing out can look very chaotic. The movement of coming back to you and your life and your reality and your inner world will become more a necessity. And that's a beautiful thing they're sharing, because from that place is where you access the bigger flow of life. But again, then you will have to face the internal knots. And they actually want to bring a light-heartedness to this, because they say, although it feels more intense, what actually happens is it makes things far more simple, because you don't have to clear or clean up or make sense about everything that's going on. You just need to take care of your life, and then only the things that are really in your moment. And that makes it feels very much to me like when your house is a mess and you want to do a big clearing in your house, but it feels quite overwhelming, that it actually helps to start with, just your desk and the feeling of clearing that desk. So I think most of us have had this experience, right, when you just physically clear something, clean up something, throw things away, and the feeling of what it is when a place is cleared. This sense of peace and this sense of space. The piece they want to bring today to us is, yes, moving inward can feel like we have to digest the harder parts of our life, to look at them, to feel them, to make sense of them, to see what we want to let go of. But they're bringing in this sense of make it as simple as you need to. Make it as small as you need to. Maybe it's not even a desk, right? For many of us, stepping into the new needs to be big and bold. They're really showing this as a human thing, and we want all of it to be cleared and all of this space to be opened up. So what they want to bring today is make it as comprehensible as you need it to be. If you don't have joy in it anymore, make it even more comprehensible. You know, it's not about the big and the everything and everything needs to happen right and now, but it's about connecting to the flow of life. This feeling when something is cleared, make sure you access somewhere in that process that feeling that there's actually light coming back, and that's a great feeling, and that will get you to the next step. What will root you, what will ground you in this clearing process is making it comprehensible for you. Alright, thank you, Dandelion. Let's see how Peppermint wants to follow up on this. So this will be the leaf part of this episode. In their episode, when they spoke about being ready for the new, they brought this piece about how new things in your life actually form a coherent story with all else that's going on, that it's not a separate thing, that it has a correlation with your life as it is. They very much want to bring a lighter perspective today and not make it too complicated. They're saying, no, don't make it too complicated, don't make it too complicated. That's the thing, when it becomes too complicated, then make it simpler, like Dandelion said, make it simpler, make it smaller. Feeling into your life, your landscape, when you experience that getting very complex, then it's a sign you need to stop. Life is not designed to be very complex and headache giving. It's designed to be simple. So that's a really practical reminder to make it simpler. They keep showing me like clearing the attic, so let's go with that. So for example, you might be feeling into your emotional world or your mental world, like all the beliefs you hold around yourself about your life. But let's say you're discerning your physical world, like what you have lying around in your attic, and you're clearing out stuff that don't serve your life anymore there. They say, by the way, so this is correlated to you, to your body. What does your attic stand for in your life, and what are you clearing at the moment in, for example, your head space? But what they want to preface now is, even when you clear out a part of your attic, this action that might seem small to you is actually rippling out to all the rest, all the other parts in our life. And this is sort of the unfurling of the leaf. So after sprouting, after budding, this leaf starts to unfurl. And this movement they're referring to, like you cleared your attic, and that movement is actually rippling out to other parts of your life. And that counts for whatever you looked into, right? Maybe you just sat with some sadness you hold around something. Just being with that, feeling that, letting that speak to you is also a clearing, and that will also ripple out to other parts of our lives. Looking at our life or looking at the state of the world, and all that needs to shift to come into a web of life that is thriving can seem like this big pile of work. That's why they were showing a mountain scene from the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit, I can't remember, but I didn't understand why they were showing this kind of windy and cold and dangerous mountaintop, but they're showing me it now, like it can really feel like that. So how are we ever gonna do that? Or looking in your life, maybe you really wish for changes that feel like a giant mountain. Oh, I can't move mountains. They're really showing it like all the things we think of, yeah, well, that's just so tiny, that's not gonna bring any difference. So that's the exact thought Peppermint said. That is not true. Because all your actions, all your thoughts, all your emotions add to one story or to the other, and to add to thriving life or to declining life, keeping you out of flow, keeping you in flow. What story am I adding to? Okay, so they're pointing at the how. That the how, like our mindset around things, to see things as this big mountain that can't be moved, that is our biggest problem. For us now, that's our biggest practice, to let go of fixed settings of how we look at things, how we approach things, and to become aware of what the beliefs we hold around that, about what is needed for change, for big things to change, for mountains to move. Our beliefs we have around that cause us to worry and get headaches or get sick to our stomach. And actually that results in the pulling back and not taking on the attic or the basement or whatever other part of your life. They're showing it now. We're a bit in movie analogies today. They're showing it in like what genre are you approaching this area of your life. So you have this scene that you're in, and you can play that scene in different settings. You can play it in the genre of a thriller, and you can play it in the genre of a comedy. And that makes the world of difference. That's so big about this shift. We're trying to shift while still using old mindsets, becoming aware of that we're still using old mindsets, but we don't actually know if we have another mindset, what the scene we are in actually looks like, how it speaks to us. So they're bringing this up to take in consideration when you notice you get very complex in your mind and you think, I can't do this, especially the areas where we hold limiting self-beliefs. So see if you can change your genre there. And they're bringing it with this playful intention, like it's really the fake it until you make it attitude that Peppermint holds. Because that will loosen the rigid mindsets. Yeah, daring to be crazy. Because then you get out of the trodden pathways, the neuronal pathways that keep us in the old, and break out of it. Lavender is coming in. And now we're moving to the flower part, the last part of this episode. And let's see what they want to bring for us today. I'm hearing practice, the beauty of practice. So they're asking what your relation is towards practice. So with beginnings, taking new steps, we have to learn to crawl before we can walk, right? And wouldn't it be great that your love for the walking is actually bigger than the destination? Think about this. How much more freedom will that give you? Because you can never fail then, right? Because you always got the walking. You've always got this practice area. They really hold this precious feeling about opening up to new things and being able to learn, to absorb new things that you didn't know before, that you couldn't do before, that again to doing with the how we do things, how we approach things. That is an absolute game changer. How much fun can you have in that area of starting to learn something? If you can be there without giving yourself a hard time, then you can be comfortable anywhere. And they say, wouldn't that be true flowering of your life? Coming to real thriving of life, in the walking, to devour all there is to it, the falling, the standing up, the whole of it. Such a deep mindset that we hold around destinations, about achievements that nobody can take away from us. See, in your days when you're trying something new, whether it is a new recipe you're trying, or whether it is the practice of sitting with you in silence without any distractions. It's quite particular, by the way, that they bring this up in the Patreon community, where we have each week sessions with the plant. Lavender is now journeying with us. They preface there as well this practice of just sitting with us, just being with us, and that is such an important practice. And I'm not talking about doing meditation, doing a contemplation or whatever, but just sitting in silence with you and all there is to you in that moment, and to get familiar with you, with just being with you. They're saying now like a wild space, a space that doesn't have a plan, but that just exists in their own right. Because then you experience as well that you exist in your own right. Just this very simple practice will inform the whole of your system, and so the whole of your life, that's a possibility. Just being able to give that pulse into your system, then other parts can move towards this setting. This is beautiful because it's also giving a deeper explanation to what Peppermint was saying. I can hear our minds having trouble with believing this, but I mean really believing this, that this is how it works, that really big changes are as simple as this. And I mean, this practice isn't simple for us, so that's what they're honoring. But the design of life and how it works is not complex. Wow, this feels like we're completing the circle of our talk today. I really appreciate how you, the plants, are bringing such lightness to big topics that we can get so serious about and so caught up in, and bring it back to simplicity and lightness. I thank you, the plants, and those of you who listen, for this circle. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know on Instagram, Facebook or YouTube what this sparked for you. On Facebook and Instagram I also share the coming about of these episodes. And also don't hesitate to share these stories with others, people that come in your mind when you hear this, and start speaking about these things together in tea circles. I really enjoyed this talk, this circle here today. I hope you did too. Yeah, and let's keep exploring. I connect with you next time. Bye for now.